Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2. Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. Moves brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar. Election Tuesday here in the United States of America. Get out there and vote. My wife just did. I couldn't. Got to take the kid to a doctor's appointment this morning. We'll get to that after the show. We got a lot to do before then. 2 hours to get to it all, and we're locked and loaded. We've got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazali back there on the ones and twos. 15 minutes from right now, we'll chat with Glenn West, go 24/7 before he's got to meet with Matt McMahon as LSU gets ready for its men's basketball season opener tomorrow. We'll talk football with Glenn. Mark Ethridge, D1 Baseball SEC Extra Team, is going to be with us at 1:30. He was in Biloxi to watch LSU for 21 innings on Sunday. Thought he might have a good perspective on what he saw, so we'll chat with Mark Ethridge coming up at 30 minutes. I've actually got a little bit of LSU basketball I want to get to, and certainly we will not go the 2 hours without diving deeper into LSU and Alabama, which will be played Saturday night in Death Valley. Got some Brian Kelly sound on how to deal with Jalen Milroe. We'll talk about that in hour number 2. Denton Day, usually with us on Monday. Couldn't do that yesterday. We'll chat with Denton in the second hour, as well as Sharif Ishak. There's a lot of news going on in the land of the Saints, and by the time we get to 2:30, an hour and a half from right now, there may be more news from down there in the Big Easy. But that is where we're going to start, and we do the same way every single day with our Genesis of Baton Rouge opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
The Saints yesterday obviously made it official. They're moving on from Dennis Allen. And what we thought yesterday was that was going to signal a significant rebuild for the first time in a couple decades in New Orleans. And we weren't sure of that because that would be out of the ordinary for the Saints. But we felt like it was the first real inclination that might be coming. And I told you yesterday that loss on Sunday may have been the exact shock to the system the New Orleans Saints needed. And they parted ways with Dennis Allen, and now they've dealt probably their most valuable asset. Marshon Lattimore traded from the New Orleans Saints to the Washington Commanders earlier today in advance of the trade deadline, which is 2 hours away right now. Washington receives Marshon Lattimore and a 5th-round selection from New Orleans in the 2025 draft. The Saints get a 3rd-rounder, a 4th-rounder, and then the 6th-rounder that the Saints actually sent to Washington for John Ridgeway in August. So you look at this, and the Saints pick up a couple draft picks. They swap there in the 4th and 5th round, and they give up Marshon Lattimore, who has a year and a half left of control on his contract. First thing here is this is the right thing to do. Marshon Lattimore is not going to be on the next great Saints team. He is beyond the age of 30. He is reasonably expensive. He's still a good player, though oft injured. But the Saints are nowhere near competing. They're nowhere near contending. They have massive issues on the offensive line, massive issues at wide receiver, an aging running back. Up front, they're not stopping anybody on the ground. Demario Davis is getting older. Your secondary now, with the loss of Paulson Adebo, who may have played his last game as a New Orleans Saint and certainly won't play again this year, and now you trade Marshon Lattimore and you've got an aging Tyrann Mathieu. Every single level on both sides of this team needs significant work. And you are not 1 or 2 moves away from making it happen, and you're now in a position with the salary cap where you can't really make 1 or 2 moves. You've got to tear the entire thing down. And that's what this is starting with Marshon Lattimore. You recruit a couple draft picks here, and you move on from him. It's not perfect. Trust me, it's not perfect. Like, it's not going to get better immediately. You look at the dead money that the Saints are looking at for 2025, and it's significant. Marshon Lattimore, Jameis Winston, Michael Thomas, Ryan Ramczyk, You're talking about $60 million in dead money. And you're not really saving anything for next year against the cap. You're offsetting this year's cap with Marshon Lattimore's contract coming off the books, but you're still on the hook for next year. And you look at it, and there are going to be a lot of guys collecting money from you against the cap that don't help you on the field. And this is, again, the right thing to do, but it doesn't make it any easier if you're a Saints fan. And I tell you all this all the time, and I just do it to level with you because I'm not trying to blow smoke or feign some sort of emotional attachment that's not there. I want the Saints to win. I don't live and bleed it. If the Saints are playing a division game on a Sunday and I get an offer to go play golf, I'm probably going to go play golf. Like that's where I am with the Saints. My emotional investment is on Saturdays. Y'all know that. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. So I don't mean to pull an example from my life because you care about that, but it's all I have to go off of. I've had to watch the Cubs do this twice. And a lot of y'all that are listening, if you are 27, 28 and younger, have never watched the Saints do this. And let me tell you, it's not fun. It is not fun. The Saints are going to be awful the rest of this year, and I think the Saints are going to be awful next year. But in the course of that, you get some contracts off the books. You got to go to work with your scouting department the second this season is over with and make sure that you're locked in on the draft. You've got to get the right head coach in place, and you've got to get a quarterback too. And as I look at these draft picks that have come back in the Marshon Lattimore deal, it wouldn't bother me at all if the Saints used a third-round pick, used a fourth-round pick, and used a sixth-round pick. Would not bother me at all. Try to fill holes on your defensive front. Try to grab a wide receiver. Make sure you got another cornerback to pair with Alontae Taylor and Kool-Aid McKinstry. You could do all that in the third round, fourth round, and sixth round. But also, you're stockpiling some picks here. And if you decide that you're the 8th pick in the draft, but you want to move up to the 3rd pick in the draft, or you're the 5th pick in the draft and you want to move up to the 2nd pick in the draft because you think the right quarterback is there this coming draft, go get him. The Saints have never been in a position to stockpile these draft picks and be aggressive at the top of the draft. Because, one, they've never had very many draft picks because they always trade them to move up to go get Mark Ingram, trade up to go get Marcus Davenport. But they've also very rarely, if ever, picked in the top 10, picked in the top 8, picked in the top 6. That may be the case here. So this is the right thing to do. You don't have very many tradable assets. Lattimore's one, and Chase Young is the other. And I would sincerely hope in the next hour and 51 minutes and 48 seconds that they get a deal done for Chase Young to bring something back. The Bengals might be interested. Philly might be interested. The Vikings might be interested. Whoever. If somebody's willing to step up and give you a 3rd or 4th round pick to rent Chase Young for a few months, you take it. You are no longer in move forward mode. The Saints have been in move forward mode for 20 years. The Saints are in back it up mode. Throw it in reverse. Hear the beeping sounds like Home Depot. Back it up. And that's the right thing to do. It just sucks. I watched the Cubs in 2012, 13, 14 just be awful. And then they stockpiled draft picks and they had free agent money and they went and got John Lester and they hit at an incredible rate with Chris Bryant and they hit with Kyle Schwarber and they got some fortune with Jake Arrieta. And none of this means anything to you, but it propelled the Cubs to the greatest run in the history of their franchise. And then I watched them tear the whole thing down in 2021 and they haven't rebuilt it yet. There's no guarantee. You don't know. But the way the Saints have done business for the last 20 years simply doesn't work anymore with the state of this franchise. You're too old, you're too expensive, you have no flexibility, and you got to change things. And this is the start of that. At least now we know they're in that mode. Because I thought they were in that mode in this offseason. They didn't do anything crazy, didn't spend insane amounts of money, didn't strap themselves with bad contracts, just kind of played it safe. I was a little disheartened by the Kamara deal. We've rehashed that and we've talked about it. I didn't think it was a proper thing to do at the time, and I still don't, but it's done. But this is a clear change in direction. The Saints have never sat here at the trade deadline and offloaded their best defensive player. They just did that. So you now know where Mickey Loomis, where Dennis Lauscha, where Gail Benson, where they're all moving. You got to get a new head coach in here, and you got to change the direction of this franchise. The next 3 months, not going to be a lot of fun. Come draft time, that'll be pretty fun. And then my guess is that next football season is not going to be great either. But you can't fix it immediately. You've got to be willing to undergo the process. And if you're a Saints fan and you don't have confidence that Mickey Loomis can do this, I don't have a lot of ammo to hold you off on that. Their drafting has not been very good the last 4 years. We all know about that famous draft class that included Ramczyk and Kamara and all those guys. We got it. They haven't consistently done that. That's going to have to start in a hurry with either hitting on the multitude of draft picks that you've got or packaging them to move up and get your new quarterback. Unfortunately, we're sitting here in early November, and there's a lot of football left for the 2024-2025 Saints to play. Just don't know how entertaining that's going to be. But I can promise you, Saints fans, as somebody who's watched this team in a different sport do this a couple times, sometimes you got to hit the reset button. And it's time to do that for the New Orleans Saints, and they are. Marshon Lattimore headed to Washington. If in the next hour and 50 minutes Chase Young is headed somewhere else, we'll tell you about that. Sharif Ishak's going to join us in an hour and 20 minutes to talk about this from New Orleans, and we'll see what his thoughts are on all of it. We'll take a time out. We'll come back, talk some LSU-Bama. Glenn West, Go 24/7 next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. You can also follow on Instagram. It's got a great Instagram account that kind of shows you some of the capabilities they have at Audio Video Security Solutions. That Instagram account is avss_BR. Tell you about the audio system that we've got in our house all the time. We moved 2 days after we moved, got Mitchell Fisher to come over. They installed the surround sound in our living room. They installed the speakers in the kitchen and in the backyard. And so now, with the touch of a button on my phone, I can control podcasts, I can control our station, I can control any music apps or any stations that we've got here under our building and listen to that while I'm cooking or playing with Myers Man or hosting parties or whatever the case may be. It's all right there, and its sound quality is unbelievable. And I tell you about the quality of their products, but the customer service after the installation with Audio Video Security Solutions has just been awesome for us. Give Mitchell Fisher a call, 225-439-7920. 225-439-7920. Tell him you want to start that process with your audio in home. He can do it. And the customer service after the installation is going to be fantastic as well. Check them out online. It's Audio Video Security Solutions at avssla.com, avssla.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Tuesday show is brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar. I'll be there tonight for some sports trivia. If you want to get out of the political landscape and just watch some sports and eat some chicken wings and drink some beer, you can do that at Plucker's tonight. We'll be there for sports trivia 8:30, as we do every single Tuesday. Come by yourself, grab a team. We always have a good time. Plucker's Nicholson location, 8:30 tonight, sports trivia. Glenn Wesco, 24/7 senior writer with us every single Tuesday as well. Bumped him up a little bit as LSU basketball got a media availability coming up as they get their season underway tomorrow against ULM. Glenn, good enough to give us a little bit of time, a little bit early. Glenn, how we doing?
Doing great, Hunt. Excited to get back to some basketball, to kind of mix in with the football season.
I am too. I enjoyed the little scrimmage there last week, and I'll be in the building tomorrow night, see how things look against ULM. But let's talk football here, Glenn. Got the news that Garrett Dellinger not going to play in the ballgame on Saturday. How big a deal is that for LSU?
It's a big deal, I think. I mean, look, Dellinger has obviously been a consistent starter for you for the last 3 years, and honestly, I think he's been probably one of the least penalized offensive linemen on the front lines this year, and has been pretty solid for him. I think in both the pass and certainly, I think that he's somebody that you just can't easily replace because of his senior leadership and veteran presence on the field. So looks like they're going to go with Paul Mubenga. You probably, if your listeners heard, Brian Kelly had some really good things to say about Mubenga and his development. Mentally, I think it's just been the physical development that they've been trying to get him up to speed on. But I think he'll slide in well next to what they got with that veteran group already, and we'll see if they can't kind of recreate or try to at least kind of overcome that loss in the short term and see if they can't get Dellinger back at some point later in the season.
We know the run game's been a huge topic of conversation. We've talked about it a ton. Statistically speaking, Alabama doesn't do an awesome job against the run. Do you think LSU will be able to move the ball a little bit on the ground in this game?
I mean, you certainly hope so. You certainly hope they spent the last couple of weeks trying to find some answers there. I mean, look, in SEC play in particular, I think they're giving up around 155 yards a game on the ground, 240 in the air. So, that's nearly 400 yards of offense in SEC games that Alabama's defense is surrendering to their opponents. So, I think LSU is going to have some opportunities to move the ball offensively. I think, it's going to have to start with Nussmeier in the passing game, of course. But I do think that there will be opportunities throughout the course of this game where the holes open up, and it's going to be on Caden Durham, on Josh Williams, hopefully a little bit of Caleb Jackson as well, to kind of just, find something and help them out a little bit in the passing game and complement them some. So will be interesting to see kind of how they do it. I mean, that we've seen a tale of two run games the previous two games. You know, you had the Durham 100-yard performance against Arkansas, and then just nobody could get going against Texas A&M, which I do think was probably one of the better fronts they've faced so far this year. I think LSU's got a chance here to kind of move the ball a little bit more consistently in the run game, and if they can do that, when LSU's run the ball well this year, they've put up their most points of the season, whether it's against South Carolina, whether it's against Arkansas. When they've run the ball well and complemented the passing game, they put up some points. So you hope that they can continue to do that, and hopefully they found some answers over the last couple weeks.
As far as the passing game goes, Garrett Nussmeier said after the Ole Miss game that he played one of his worst games because he turned the ball over a couple times. How do you think he'll respond to the 3-turnover game that he had in College Station?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's certainly a trend right now that he's going to have to snap out of if they want to win these next 4 games. You know, he cannot turn the ball over as much as he has been, and it was really kind of a surprise to me of how quickly that thing fell off the rails for LSU's offense in the second half. I thought they were really controlling the game on both sides of the ball in the first half against A&M, and it just fell apart very quickly for him. And it started with those Nussmeier interceptions. And if he's got to find a way to kind of get that under wraps, I think he understands the decision making and kind of he doesn't have to do it all on himself. And I think that's kind of been his problem. And certainly Brian Kelly has alluded to that. But he's got some work to do to kind of get himself out of those turnover bugs. And I think it's going to be important that he gets Mason Taylor involved. Mason Taylor's only caught 3 passes in 3 of the previous 4 games. Like, he's only gotten up to 3 catches. And early in the season, he was a guy that was getting 6, 7, 8 balls a game. So I would love to see them work him back into the offensive picture a little bit more consistently. Hopefully you can get C.J. Daniels back for this game and kind of have your full arsenal of receiving weapons. So I'll be very interested to see kind of how Nussmeier responds and bounces back. But he has bounced back from bad performances before, and I would hope you would hope that he does it again in a really kind of comfortable environment, being at home and having the crowd behind him.
I would imagine about 70% of Blake Baker's time between College Station and Saturday night is going to be spent on Jalen Milroe and how to keep him from running for 120 yards. Yeah. How do they do that?
Yeah, I mean that's where it's got to start, right? I mean he's obviously a dual threat guy, but I think if you want to take away something from him, it's got to start with the run. Got to start with him, not being able to rattle off those 15, 20-yard chunk play runs when things break down. I think the simple answer here, I think for me, is does LSU want to use a spy? Do they want to have Weeks kind of following him around and patrolling that area? And making sure that Milroe does not get out of the pocket and make things happen when plays aren't available downfield. But I do think it's a two-way street. Like I think that not only do they have to stop him with his legs, but Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard are very capable SEC wide receivers. So this is going to be a very important game for Zy Alexander and for Ashton Stamps as well. So it's going to take a full 11-man kind of unit for LSU to really find those stops defensively. I think that Milroe and this Alabama offense have been a little bit turnover prone the last couple of weeks. Maybe they can find a couple of ways they can turn the ball over and kind of create some momentum that way. But I think that's going to be the name of the game here, is how they slow down Jalen Milroe. And I think LSU is going to be obviously hard at work. Blake Baker's probably been hard at work devising all kinds of creative blitzes to throw his way.
Do you think this game becomes kind of a track meet? Do you think it gets into the 30s?
I don't know, to be quite honest. I think this is going to be more of a defensive game personally. I think the way that these offenses have played, the last couple weeks, I think there's going to be opportunities for LSU's defense to, create some turnovers, get off the field. And I just don't have a whole lot of faith right now that LSU can complement the pass with the run game. And if they're going to be asking Garrett Nussmeier to throw 45 times, I think they'll have some success offensively and they'll be able to put up some points, but whether or not it gets into the 30s, I think it's going to be a little bit tough if you don't have much of a run game to kind of help complement the offense. So I think this is going to be a little bit more of a kind of a field game. We'll see if LSU can create a few turnovers throughout the course of this game, maybe get Alabama behind the chains. I know that's something that Brian Kelly spoke a lot about Just trying to get Milroe in that offense in third and long and not in third and short situations. So that'll be a very big key for LSU's defense. But I don't know that this is going to be one of those 35, 31, 38, 35 kind of games. I think it could be a little bit lower scoring.
Who's under more pressure in this game? Brian Kelly in year 3 at home, or Kalen DeBoer in year 1, but already with 2 losses?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably biased, but I would probably say, Brian Kelly, wants to get this win, and LSU needs to get this win now in year 3. You look at kind of the playoff implications that are at stake. I mean, I think DeBoer obviously has a long leash. Kelly has a long leash, but I do think that if you're LSU, you want to start to see kind of those steps towards the playoff, and this is kind of your last-ditch effort to do that. They've got to win these next 4 games to get into that playoff conversation, and I think that LSU's got the talent and the ability to do it. They just have not shown it consistently for 4 quarters yet, and they've got to be able to do that if they want to win these next 4 games and kind of get into their sweet spot of competing for a playoff spot. So that the preseason goal all along was to get into the playoff, and I think you take Brian Kelly and these players for their words, and that they want to get there. But it's gonna take obviously a real team effort here to get this done, because this is not going to be an easy 4-game stretch for anybody in the SEC. But particularly when you look at kind of the deficiencies that are on both sides of the ball, and just kind of the things that they're working against, I guess, right now.
Bama's favored by a couple points. How do you see it on Saturday night?
Yeah, I kind of coming into the year, I thought that LSU would split the Ole Miss Alabama games. I don't know that I've wavered from that. So I think it's going to be a tough game at home. We'll see if LSU can get it done, but I do like LSU's ability to move the ball offensively. I think they'll have an opportunity to put up some points, and it's just going to be, is it enough? And does the defense do its job in holding Milroe down? Can they get them off the field on third and long? Is going to be really important. And I think this is going to come down to another fourth quarter. I mean, this has been a trend for LSU all season long. It's been the fourth quarter games, and I think that if this gets into a fourth quarter game, LSU's shown the ability to win these games. So we'll see. I'd like LSU maybe to scratch this one out, but I also wouldn't be a bit surprised if Alabama comes on the road and gets a big win.
Give me a player or 2 to watch tomorrow night in the PMAC for LSU you're excited to see in the real home opener.
Yeah, for sure. I think Curtis Gibbons is one, the freshman guard. I just been really impressed by him and kind of his poise, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see kind of what his role looks like. I think it could be certainly expanded throughout the course of the season. Cam Carter is going to be one that I'm going to be watching all season long. He's I think a guy that can really kind of anchor LSU defensively, and has improved his perimeter shooting, so I think he can be an offensive threat as well. So this is going to be a guard-heavy team. I think it's going to be a team that's led by its guards and by its backcourt and its wings, playing really hard defensively, and hopefully putting up some more threes and seeing if they can't be more of a perimeter threat as a team. So those are a couple guys that I'll be watching for tomorrow.
LSU ULM tomorrow in the PMAC, and then Alabama State on Sunday before things get a little more real next week on Thursday when LSU goes to Manhattan, Kansas to play Kansas State. Glenn West got you covered for basketball, got you covered for football, baseball as well, and recruiting. It's all there at Go 24/7. He's with us every single Tuesday. Thanks, Glenn.
All right. Thanks, Hunt. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. It is our pleasure. I'll talk a little bit of hoops at the end of this hour. I wrote a column on LouisianaSports.net about 3 predictions for this LSU basketball team, so I'll get to some of that at the end of the hour. When we come back, let's transition from football over to basketball, now to baseball. Mark Ethridge, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra team, was there watching 21 innings of LSU baseball on Sunday. We'll break it down coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. When you think Genesis of Baton Rouge, you should think luxury. There are obviously options in the luxury car game, and you may think to yourself, well, I can't afford any of them, so who cares? Well, that may not be true. Genesis Baton Rouge is absolutely a luxury brand of cars, but it's also at a reasonable price. Every single new Genesis Baton Rouge that comes off the lot there, 10 years, 100,000-mile warranty. And with that comes 3 years of complimentary maintenance, complimentary valet maintenance. Don't want to spend time taking your car in to get the oil change, wipers done. Well, just let them do it for you. It's part of the luxury car driving experience. those brand ambassadors are going to be there to help you every step of the way at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're on Airline at Pico, right there across from Women's Hospital. Phenomenal facility. It's only been there a little over a year. If you haven't been by to check out Genesis of Baton Rouge, just go by and look. It is absolutely a fantastic facility, and the line of vehicles is top-notch at, well, every single car that's on the lot at Genesis of Baton Rouge is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. That's genesisofbatonrouge.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2024 Ram 1500 truck for only $32,898. $32,898 for a new Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Join us at Pro Dreams in Mandeville for our special event, A Day of Champions. Meet LSU National Championship winning head coaches Jay Johnson, Skip Bertman, and Paul Maneri. Don't miss your chance to purchase authentic sports memorabilia, autographed by the champions themselves. It's the perfect opportunity to celebrate LSU baseball and take home a piece of history. Visit pro-dreams.com to get your tickets. See you there.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Pluckers. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Time to talk a little bit of baseball. Fall baseball underway out at the box. LSU went over to Biloxi for a marathon day on Sunday. 21 innings over 8 hours of baseball, and Mark Ethridge was there to watch it all for D1 Baseball, part of the SEC Extra team. Good enough to give us a little bit of time here. Mark, thanks for the time. How are you?
Absolutely, guys. I tell you what, it was fun to go out and see some fall baseball. But I got to tell you, 21 innings of exhibition baseball is about my limit. If there had been 22, I might would have had to hit the road.
I was going to ask how it was, but you framed it up quite nicely there. You got a piece up at D1 Baseball right now talking about some of the great things that you saw, specifically from LSU as well as from Samford. But I want to talk Tigers here. Chase Shores got the ball first for LSU, and Jay Johnson has spoken very, very highly of Chase coming off of Tommy John surgery and what he expects from him in his third year here in college, but he hadn't pitched very much, just half a season as a freshman. What did you see from Chase on Sunday?
Yeah, he looked really good. He was he spotted the ball pretty well. He walked the batter, but he struck out 5 in 3 innings. And in a lot of these exhibitions, you only see him for an inning, maybe you see him for 2. But in this one, at least with Shores, he got to throw 3. So that was good because really I thought he looked better in his 3rd inning. He really seemed to kind of find it. And I think that's what you're going to get with him because he just needs innings. He needs to see people in a game situation like he did today and like they will. I mean, this past weekend, how they will this weekend, and just kind of get those competitive juices going. I mean, he was 94 to 97. He had 198. I mean, it's a big arm. It's a really loose, easy delivery. It looks like there's probably more in there. As he just gets more reps. But yeah, he was really impressive, and he definitely looks like the ace of the staff.
We had Jay Johnson on the show last week, and he mentioned that Connor Ware, the left-hander junior college transfer, has really looked good early on in his first fall. I know he got the ball on the stat line, was very good, a lot of strikeouts, but I'm curious what you thought of Ware on Sunday.
Yeah, he was a surprise for me. I really didn't know much about him. Apparently he was injured much of last year, didn't throw, and that's why he's at LSU. That's why he didn't get drafted. And he looked great. I mean, he followed Shores through 2 innings, struck out the side in the 4th, gave up an infield hit, and then struck out 2 more in the 5th. I mean, he was maybe 92 to 94, but it was sneaky. It looked faster than that, and I really like him. He's a big lefty. He's going to have a key role. I don't know what it's going to be, but you could see him, being a long relief guy. You could see him as kind of that stopper who comes in and gets out of a jam, or heck, he could even close. I mean, they were not getting good at bats off of him.
William Schmidt, the most highly touted member of this freshman class, turned down potential first-round money in the Major League Baseball draft to come to LSU for 3 years. Hometown guy from Catholic High here in Baton Rouge. You got to look at him. I'm imagining the talent looks pretty apparent.
Yeah, I mean, he's in the mix to be a rotation guy. He looked really good. He threw 2 innings, had I think 2 or 3 strikeouts, a couple of walks, gave up maybe 1 hit, no runs. I mean, he looks like the real deal. It's just a guy, one of these guys. He's new to SEC baseball. It's a jump, and last year you might have had 2 freshman pitchers in the SEC stay in the rotation for the bulk of the year, so it's really difficult for young guys to come in and do it. But he's talented enough. I think he's one of those guys who is, and they may not need him to start, but I do think that he could be too good to sit and just force his way into the rotation.
Obviously, from the questions I've asked, we've gotten a pretty good feel for this, but obviously LSU loses Luke Holman, loses Gage Jump, loses Griffin Herring, loses Nate Ackenhausen. A lot of the guys that they counted on, Christian Little, late in the season to pitch their most important innings are no longer on the roster. What was your overall impression on the 21 innings of the talent that LSU's got to work with on the pitching staff once the spring comes?
Yeah, it's an incredible staff. I mean, with stuff, with depth, with different looks, and there's righty-lefty mix, there's hard throwers, there's some guys that are more pitchability. I mean, there's just so much to work with. I think finding innings for everybody, and finding roles and who's going to do what, that's going to be a challenge, certainly early in the year as you try to find your bearings. That's the strength of the team. I don't have really any questions about LSU pitching-wise. I think there's enough there that they're going to be able to come through. Position-wise, I mean, it's a solid lineup, but when you look at it, compared to, say, a Texas A&M or what we've seen from Tennessee or, some of these other, really mashing type of clubs, I don't know that this is that type of team. I think LSU is going to need to play a little small ball at times and get some clutch hits, and it may not be Jared Jones is going to get his, and I think that, they'll have some other home runs. I mean, I think the transfer from Indiana State, Hernandez, got a chance to hit a lot of home runs. But I think it's going to be more doubles, and I think it's going to be, getting clutch hits and line drives and moving runners and things of that nature in this year's offense. And, that's sort of different, right? There's no Tommy White in the middle of the lineup. There's not a Dylan Cruz that's going to kind of do everything. There's a lot of really good players. And it's a deep lineup that's going to go, I don't know, they've got 12, 13 guys, maybe more, who I think Jay'd be really comfortable starting And because of that, it's going to give you a lot of variety in case you have injuries or slumps or what have you. They're going to be options, and you got to like that part.
Maybe a bit of an odd question, but over the course of 21 innings, did you notice LSU's catching defensively? Because they're starting some guys back there that haven't done a lot of catching, and they're kind of trying to find the mix and match there with Milazzo and Travinsky gone. Did you notice anything defensively from the catchers?
Yeah, I think that, Hernandez started the first game. He's the Indiana State transfer, and he did not catch there. He was more of a DH. They had a really good defensive catcher, and he was pretty good. He's certainly serviceable behind the plate. He threw a couple of runners out. I think he's fine. But really the defensive option is Cade Arendisi. True freshman. He's what it looks like back there, and it's going to be tough to keep him off the field. He also had 3 hits up for the day. Threw a couple of runners out, really showcased an arm. He's the next star behind the plate. It's just a question of how does he adjust to SEC pitching, at the plate, because I think defensively he's there. I think he's a really good defensive catcher. And then even
we may have lost Mark there. You always want to wait for a second to see if it jumps back, but when it doesn't, it's I think we may have lost connection there. Beck says we did lose connection. Yep. Mark, we got you?
Yep, you got me?
I got you right back there. So you were just finishing your thought there on the catching.
Yeah, Cade Priester is a guy that I think is going to actually be a really really good third catcher. Jay said he's hit for power this fall. Going into the spring, he's the guy that can help them. He may catch some. He could also be a DH candidate. So that's 3 good options behind the plate. I'm not really worried about them a catcher.
I think I saw a highlight from a local news channel here that had Stephen Milam playing some third base. I know that Jay's looking at a lot of different options across the infield. What did that look like?
Yeah, he looked good. He's a good defender. Obviously, you would think he'll play second, Braswell will play short, Dickinson will play third, but that does give you some options, right? If some guy's really not feeling it or doesn't, or they want to do something different based on the pitching matchup, you do have some capable backups and some versatility, and that's what they were doing. They were playing kind of all 3 of those guys, kind of moving them around, and that's what you do in the fall, right? You experiment, and when the risk is low, and that gives them some. Not just some confidence, but also kind of an understanding of the bigger picture, right? Of, hey, when I played second in the fall, or when I played third in the fall, this is what I like my fellow infielders to do. It kind of gives you a bigger sense of what everyone's doing in the infield, and I think that's so valuable, when you to take that into the season.
It's generally tough to sneak some baseball into LSU-Bama week down here, but appreciate you for making some time for us. I always enjoy it, and I appreciate the content. And we'll be reading all fall long. Spring will be here before we know it, Mark. Thanks for the time.
Absolutely. Anytime.
He's Mark Ethridge, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team. Tigers Sanford over the weekend. They're back at it this week, and they'll play Louisiana Lafayette in their final fall scrimmage before the Purple and Gold World Series. So still a few weeks left to go in fall baseball. And I think just kind of to summarize all that, you've got a lot of options on the mound. You got a lot of options in the lineup. And Jay Johnson's task is going to be to use this fall sample size to determine where he wants to start things, and then you let the natural progression of a season take over. It doesn't feel like a team that's got as much star power as LSU has had in previous years. I think Jared Jones is a star, and potentially Stephen Milam could be that guy as well. But they're going to have to do it with just a lot of really good players, and that's the way the roster's been assembled. Just a matter of how it takes shape as you kind of move forward. So appreciate Mark for giving us a little bit of time here on this Tuesday. We'll come back. My 3 predictions for LSU basketball, who start their season tomorrow in the PMAC against ULM. Still plenty of football to get to. Talking about Jalen Milroe at 2 o'clock, Denton Day at 2:15, Sharif Ishaq at 2:30. So all football wall-to-wall in the second hour. We'll squeeze in a little bit of hoops here as we get ready for the LSU season opener. That's coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Make LeBear's Baton Rouge your game day headquarters this season. They got the biggest screens around, and now you can bet and dine at ESPN Bet in person. We've been out at ESPN Bet a number of times throughout the fall, and I just love it there. There's huge TVs. You can watch a lot of games at once. There's a big bar area, easy to get a beverage. You can get some great food there as well. The sports book's right behind you to go ahead and place your wagers at the table, and then you got blackjack tables sitting right there as well. everything you would want in a game-watching environment. You can do it all at ESPN Bet inside LeBears. Always invite you to join the SEC contest on Cover 5. You download the Cover 5 app, enter the promo code LABRSEC24. That's LABRSEC24. Pick 5 SEC games against me. See how you do week to week. If you're not a member, you can get the Penn Play app today. LeBears Baton Rouge, your live sports headquarters. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966 for help.
The only thing scary about the deals at Bayou Ford is if you miss out on them. Like $15,000 off F-150. Bayou Ford has $15,000 off Ford F-150. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Tuesday show is brought to you by Pluckers. Brought the little guy into Pluckers 2 Sundays ago. House some no sauce buffalo bites, some fries. But really the key there was the ketchup. You got to have the ketchup. If you don't have the ketchup, he's not going to bite. But if you got ketchup, he's all in.
So literally just chicken bites, pretty much?
Yes,
yeah.
and French fries.
Right.
But
right.
he'll often say when he says he wants chicken and French fries, he'll say he wants chicken and ketchup and French fries and ketchup.
Yeah, well,
So-
the ketchup is important. He's just trying to emphasize how important it is.
It's not, for me, I could take or leave ketchup.
Well, yeah, but
Just
it's
give me the
important
chicken
to
and the
him,
French fries.
huh?
It's very important to him, and it gets all over his clothes. But Plucker's still very good. Get on by. See us tonight. Sports Trivia at 8:30 Nicholson location. I have a column up at LouisianaSports.net. 3 predictions for LSU basketball in 2024-2025. The first one is that I think LSU is going to finish in the top 4 in the SEC in steals. Hold your horses. Not picking them to finish in the top 4 in the SEC in terms of wins and losses, but I do think this is a team that has very, very, very much prioritized defense in the transfer portal with their ads. And when you bring in Jordan Sears, who was in the top 10 in the OVC in steals last year, he's kind of a pesky point guard, good instincts, can get in there and get some steals. Jai Bailey was one of the best defensive players in the A-10 last year for Richmond. He finished 4th in the league in steals. He had a game against Florida last year where he had 6 steals against the Gators. He's a great defender, and I think he's going to help you in that. And then Cam Carter led Kansas State in steals last year, and that's a really pesky program that prides itself on toughness and defense. I think those 3 guys are going to do a great job in terms of creating havoc and creating some steals for LSU. When you add in the fact that I think LSU is going to play more possessions than most teams in the SEC, I think that that's going to create more opportunities to get steals, and I think that LSU will be a top 4 steals team in the Southeastern Conference. I'm not ready to say they're going to be a top 4 defensive team. I'm going to need to see a little bit more rim protection against real teams. And then, we'll see kind of what some of the other guys can do defensively that are going to play outside of those 3. Michael Williams is an okay defender. Tyrell Ward's probably a below-average defender. And then you got to see what young bigs play. Like, does Robert Miller play? Like, is he ready to play defense? Like, I'm not sure how all that comes together for a full defense. But as far as just the older players, those guys are all 4th and 5th year players that I mentioned. If those guys are out there a lot, which I think they will be, I think you're going to see a lot of steals for this LSU team. So I think that'll be their identity on defense. Last year, LSU finished 177th in the country in three-point attempts per game. They averaged 21.7 three-point attempts per game. In the exhibition, they shot 37 threes. That is 18, 16 above where they were last year. I kind of thought it was because, hey, we're facing a Loyola team that can't really guard us. We'll just take shots wherever we want. But then that man got to the podium and said, we want to shoot a lot more threes. And if we're at 50-50 threes against twos taken, we like that. So, okay, I look at this roster. Trey Hannibal, not a three-point threat at all last year. Hunter Dean, not a three-point threat at all last year. Those guys aren't there, and they're going to give way to Sears and Carter, who shot it great in the exhibition, 9 of 15. Tyrell Ward wants to shoot threes. Mike Williams shot threes at a 39% clip in SEC play last year. I think Carter's going to shoot a lot of threes, like I mentioned. I think Jalen Reed is going to shoot more threes than he did last year when he shot them at almost a 40% clip in league play. Actually, 41% in league play for Jalen Reed, and I think he's going to shoot more of those. So, outside of Jai Bailey, who doesn't really shoot, Jai Bailey led the A-10 in field goal percentage last year because he pretty much only shot dunks and layups. He shot less threes last year, starting and playing 30 minutes a game for Richmond than Derek Fountain shot for LSU, who's a post player. So Jai Bailey's the one guy who's not going to have kind of a green light from three, but I think everybody else is. So here's my prediction for LSU in terms of three-pointer shot this year. I think last year they were 177th in the country. I think they'll cut that in half. I think they'll be 88. I think they'll be top 90 in the country in threes attempted per game, which is a huge jump from last year. I think it's part stylistically. This is what Auburn's been doing for a few years. This is what Bama's been doing for a handful of years under Nate Oates. Like, a lot of teams are shooting a lot of threes now, and they're playing well. And I think LSU is going to do a little bit more of that. So those are my first two predictions when it regards to LSU. Top 4 in the SEC in steals, and they're going to shoot threes to cut that in half from 177th to 88th. Last one here. I think the SEC is going to get 10 teams in the NCAA basketball tournament. 10. Last year, 8 teams got in. And you figure that Texas was also in it last year, so there's room there. And Oklahoma was the first 4 out last year. So you could make a case that the SEC is the best league in the country. Now, I would listen to a Big 12 case. I would listen to a Big East case. Year to year, I would probably listen to an ACC case as well, although last year it would not have been. But the SEC has a case. I'm not telling you it's open and shut and it's done, but like there's a chance. And I think you're going to get 10 teams in. Mississippi State got in last year with an 8-10 SEC record. LSU had a better record than Mississippi State in Southeastern Conference games last year. That's what you're aiming for if you're LSU. Get in the top 10 of a 16-team league. That's what you're shooting to do. And I think there's a real chance they can do it. You need to win 9 or 10 league games to feel good about it. You can't throw up on yourself like LSU did at times in December last year. Of course, the Nichols loss resonates, but you looked non-competitive at times last year. You got to do better than that. Don't throw up on yourself in November and December. But if you can do that, and then you can get to the 1st of January, and you can win 9 or 10 league games, you're going to get in. And the way that LSU is going to do that, if they can, is by controlling your home games. You've got to win at home in a league this tough. You cannot plan on going off and ripping off 5 road wins in the league. LSU's just not going to win 5 road games in the league. You're talking about playing 18 games. I don't think they're going to go. You got 9. I don't think they're going to go 5-4 on the road. I don't think they're going to have a winning record on the road. So you've got to take care of your business at home. Now that all starts well down the road. Those are my 3 bold predictions for LSU basketball. They start tomorrow against ULM with a 7 o'clock tip-off inside the PMAC. If you want to come on out, certainly can. I'll be writing about it on LouisianaSports.net. That's it for hour number 1 here on a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Shout out to Mark Ethridge and Glenn West for joining us. We come back, talk some LSU-Bama on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. You've been at something for 30 years, probably got it figured out pretty well. And David Duvall and his team certainly do. Check them out on Instagram or go to the website, OneBathAndClosets.com. See some pictures of their great work. If you've got one of those big tubs, you got put it in these big jacuzzi-style tub, and you don't ever really use it, that space is perfect for a walk-in shower. Take that tub out, big, bulky, hulking tub you don't use, and put a big, luxurious walk-in shower in. David Vaughn and his team do that kind of stuff all the time. It doesn't have to be a full-scale bathroom or closet renovation that they do. They can handle some of those smaller projects as well, and they're happy to do it. Check out the website, OneBathAndClosets.com. Request that free consultation. Doesn't cost you anything to start the conversation. David Duvall and his team are happy to help you with it. They'll do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. It's One Bath and Closets, OneBathAndClosets.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck. your number one park system in the nation.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. The Commanders on this NFL trade deadline day solidifying their secondary, acquiring cornerback Marshon Lattimore from the Saints for a trio of draft picks. Washington still has 7 picks in 2025. Steelers trading a 2025 fifth-rounder to the Jets for receiver Mike Williams, a solid addition to a Pittsburgh receiving core, notes ESPN's Louis Riddick.
So now you've got George Pickens, who's kind of an inside-outside dude who can do a little bit of the short intermediate passing game and the vertical game. Mike Williams is a vertical outside lane guy, an X-wide receiver, a guy who does exactly what you're seeing on your screen.
Yeah.
They've got Calvin Austin III to play the slot. So now they've got guys who kind of mix and match with one another.
Steelers also acquired edge rusher Preston Smith from the Packers for a 7th-rounder. Bengals put running back Zach Moss on IR and acquired Bears running back Khalil Herbert for a 7th-rounder. Cowboys acquired receiver Jonathan Mingo for the Panthers for a 4th-round pick. Trade deadline is an hour away. Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott will likely go on injured reserve with that hamstring injury. The move would keep him sidelined at least the next 4 games. Cooper Rush will start while he's sidelined.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy. Coming up Wednesday, we're at the halfway point of the NFL season. I'll tell you which teams and players I've been most disappointed in. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Pluckers Wing Bar. 2 locations here in Baton Rouge, Nicholson just south of campus, Bluebonnet in front of the Mall of Louisiana. Pluckers, if you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird. 15 minutes from right now, Denton Day, SiriusXM college football overtime, talking college football national storylines as well as his thoughts on LSU and Bama coming up this weekend. Sharif Ishak from Saintsland in 2:30. Some Twitter rumblings, Carl Granderson's name being mentioned on the trade deadline streets. Also, Chase Young, obviously a guy that we may see some news on here over the next hour. If you missed the news today, Marshon Lattimore traded from the Saints to Washington. Saints get some draft capital and are officially restarting this thing from the ground up. So we'll see if anything else happens in the next 57 minutes before the NFL trade deadline hits. Want to talk some LSU-Bama here at the top of hour number 2. Brian Kelly met with the media yesterday, and he was going through the keys to beating Alabama, and I decided to take that answer and just trim it down to one key to beating Alabama, and that is, of course, you got to stop Jalen Milroe somehow, some way. Brian Kelly spoke about it.
Defensively, stopping the quarterback is going to be paramount. Milroe's outstanding. He also can throw the football, so, he is a dual threat. I think first down is an important down as well. I mean, they're one of the best third down and short conversion teams in the country. We need to get them behind the chains.
Milroe is different than anyone else LSU has played. I liken it to this, and this works for some people. It doesn't work for other people, but I feel like there are enough people that it does work for that's reasonable to talk about. Jalen Milroe plays quarterback like the create a player from your video game when you were 14. You get a big, fast, strong dude that has huge arm strength and can run away from safeties and run over linebackers. Like, there really weren't a lot of those in 1998 when I was playing my game, but Jalen Milroe is one of them. He is big. He is fast, he is strong, he can throw it a mile. And it is quite simply not a coincidence that in Alabama's best 2 offensive games of this season, which were at Wisconsin, a 42-10 win, and then against Georgia, a 41-34 win, In those two games, Jalen Milroe ran it 14 times for 75 yards against Wisconsin and 16 times for 117 against Georgia. He is an absolute problem running the football, and you don't have to just go back to this year to see that. You don't have to just look at their offensive performances against teams this year. You can go back to the LSU game last year, and you all remember it. It was nightmarish if you're LSU as far as Jalen Milroe running the football. He ran it 20 times, a season high, for 155 yards and 4 touchdowns. 20 carries, 155 yards, 4 touchdowns. He just destroyed LSU. And again, I'm not going to be your X's and O's guy every day, but it did seem evident that Milroe oftentimes was dropping back, and LSU was playing man coverage and turning their back on him, and he was just tucking it and running. And there's 14 yards, and there's 26 yards, and there's 9 yards, and there's 6 yards, and there's 17 yards, and they just never appeared to do anything differently to stop him from running. Now, that was a different staff, different group of personnel, and you have to imagine, after watching what we watched in College Station a week and a half ago, when Marcel Reed came in and LSU looked like they had never seen a quarterback that could run, you would imagine that they've been looking at that and going, okay, well, we got to shore that up. And that's undoubtedly job number one for LSU. Yeah, you got to deal with Ryan Williams. Yeah, they've got 2 running backs that are running for better than 6 yards a carry. Yeah, they got a big physical offensive line that's got some guys that are going to be pros. Like, there's not just one aspect to this Alabama offense, but there is one aspect that's more important than the other aspects, and that is Jalen Milroe's ability to run the football. And LSU has to find a way to slow that down in some capacity. I don't feel like it's realistic for LSU to hold Jalen Milroe to 11 rushing yards. I don't think that's going to happen. He hasn't gone nuts in every game. You can certainly point to some games with some sack adjustments where he didn't run it well. Tennessee held him to 11 yards on 14 carries. South Carolina held him to 36 yards on 18 carries. Now, he had 2 touchdowns there. Vanderbilt held him to 10 yards on 7 carries. Heck, South Florida, 12 carries for 2 yards. But you got sack yardage there, and I feel like there's going to be a real insistence by Alabama to make sure that he runs. And LSU has to be ready for it. Brian Kelly talked about defending Milroe in a Kalen DeBoer offense as opposed to what he saw last year in the offense under Nick Saban and Tommy Rees.
Last year, Matt, it was evolving. Like, I don't know that they knew what they wanted to do because it was a quarterback controversy. They were kind of playing multiple quarterbacks last year at Alabama. I think they had 2 or 3 quarterbacks going back and forth. Then they kind of settled on Milroe just before they got to us. And it was big chunk play. You know, it was run the quarterback. Here, they've had all spring, and they've settled on a system with a starting quarterback. So it's consistency week in and week out. They're doing the same thing with him week in and week out. So there's a comfort level within the offense. When we got to him last year, you weren't really sure what you were going to get. It was a little bit of everything.
I know that conventional wisdom, and Joe Watercooler football fan, and myself is included in that at times, says, well, just put a spy on him. Just spy him. And that sounds great, and I don't think LSU is going to come into this game with no spy package that they've got, but it's easier said than done to spy him and then go get him in the open field. Like, Whit Weeks is a good athlete, physical guy, can probably run with Jalen Milroe to an extent, but it's hard to stand 8 yards from him, wait for him to go, and then watch him take off and then make sure you go and make that play. He's made a 2.5-year career out of running by guys and making guys miss. And he certainly did that against LSU last year, although I didn't see a spy on him a ton. But you got to figure Alabama's going to come out with a read option package with Jam Miller and with Jalen Milroe, and they're going to start there. And if LSU doesn't prove they can stop it, well, it's just going to keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. If LSU does make some adjustments and stops that, I think you're still going to see Milroe run, especially when he drops back and maybe nothing's quite there take off, and it's just tough to stop him. Now, it's happened some, but I think there's a lot of LSU fans that would look back at that game in College Station with a little bit of PTSD and be like, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. Milroe is an average player through the air. He's not terrible. He's certainly not polished. He's certainly not elite. He's an average passer. He's pretty good, generally speaking, on the deep ball. He can be erratic on the intermediate stuff. I thought he looked bad against Missouri, 62% completion, no touchdowns, no picks, 215 yards. He got sacked twice. I thought he was mediocre against Tennessee, who probably has the best defense in the league, 56% completion, 2 interceptions and a touchdown. One statistic absolutely to look at here, though, is those interceptions. 2 against Tennessee, 2 against South Carolina, 1 against Vanderbilt, 1 against Georgia. There was a run there of 4 straight games where he had one. He did not against Missouri. But LSU probably needs to force a turnover or 2 from Jalen Milroe. I think you've got a better chance of getting your hands on a couple of those errant passes, whether he sails one over the middle or he's late on a read or any of the things that can plague a quarterback who's not elite through the air, which Milroe is not. If you got an opportunity to get your hands on it, you've got to get your hands on it. They did that against Jackson Dart in a couple of crucial spots. That's got to happen again. So it's a lot to ask. Spy him, get him on the ground, hold that rushing offense spearheaded by the quarterback down, and then, hey, when he throws you a pick, you got to make a pick. And these are all easy things to diagnose, but when you've watched Alabama play for the last 2 years, like most of us have, you've seen all this far too often. Like, we haven't seen enough Marcel Reed to make real judgments on what he should or shouldn't have been against LSU on Saturday night. But we've seen enough of Jalen Milroe to know he wants to run, he is erratic, and you've got to intercept the ball when he throws it to you. Look at Tennessee, they did it. You look at South Carolina, they did it. You look at Vanderbilt, they did it. They were in games or won games. You look at Wisconsin, didn't stop him on the ground, and didn't have an interception. Well, they gave up 42 points and lost. That's the way you've got to play this with Jalen Milroe. He's going to make some plays. You got to limit him and make plays of your own on the other end. It's a tough matchup for LSU. Jalen Milroe is a heck of a football player. We'll see him inside Tiger Stadium on Saturday night. If you're looking for LSU football content all week long, all season long, all year long, Hunt on LSU is our LSU football YouTube channel. And, of course, there's lots of LSU content up at this moment at LouisianaSports.net. A lot of Saints content up as well. We'll talk Saints with Sharif Ishak coming up in about 15 minutes. When we come back, Denton Day, college football overtime, talking CFB. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports. Evolve Physical Therapy. EvolvePT.com, I should say. Look, if you're in pain, that sucks. But there are folks here that can deal with it for you. Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports is happy to help you get rid of that pain and get back to being your active self. Whether it's elbow pain, knee pain, back pain, hip pain, wrist pain, neck pain. No matter how you got it, car accident, injured playing sports, slept on it wrong, old age creeping up on you. Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports, happy to help you. They do dry needling, they do cupping, they do scraping. They've got isokinetic testing to measure the recovery of your muscles as you rehabilitate. Don't settle for some subpar physical therapy experience. Go to the hands-on team at Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports. Robbie Bolton and his team are the best. They're on Starring near Highland Road, right behind Sammy's Grill. It's Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports, EvolvePT.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Head back to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Denton Day, college football overtime on Sirius XM. Usually Jones on Mondays. Had some priors, so he jumps aboard a little bit late here on a Tuesday to talk some CFB. Denton, how we doing?
Hunt, what's up, man? It's a good day to talk college football. We got the rankings coming out tonight, and that's the only important thing that's happening this evening, right?
Depends on who you ask. I think it's more fun than the politics, but yeah, I'll be locked into that to see how things kind of shake out. Let's talk about some of the teams that lost on Saturday first before we get into the rankings and what we're going to see this coming weekend. Penn State takes their first loss of the season. Rinse and repeat. They can't score any points on Ohio State and can't make the plays when they have to. Anything to chew on with Penn State there, or is just the same old, same old?
It's the same old, same old. Years they have no quarterback, they have good receivers. Years they have a quarterback, they have no good receivers. Like, it's this weird circle of life that is the James Franklin experience. Unfortunate. It would have been a lot of fun, chaotic if they won, giving Ohio State 2 losses in the beginning of November, something we don't see often. Even with the 12-team playoff, it kind of puts a lot more pressure on Ryan Day and Ohio State, but that's not what happens because James Franklin can't win in big games. It's a him problem. If you don't agree with that, you're blind at this point. Nothing's going to change, though. They're not going to fire him. He's 1-10 against Ohio State. They're the B rival of Ohio State, so it doesn't really matter. And they'll probably get into the college football playoff, all things considered, and their fan base will be somewhat happy. So rinse and repeat.
It's interesting with Penn State, though, because you've got a consistent product that is good. It's not elite, and they're not winning championships. And there's no guarantee that if you move on from him, you're going to get the next guy. You could fall off a cliff like Tennessee did for a decade and a half, or you could fire Mark Richt and hire Kirby Smart. I think it's more likely you fall off a cliff. But what would you do if you were Tennessee administration?
I mean, you got to keep him. Because you're right. There's a much bigger likelihood that you either become Tennessee, Florida, Nebraska, USC. I mean, there's so many more examples of teams that kind of outthink what they are. You're still getting 10 wins a year.
Yeah.
If you're Penn State, especially with a 12-team playoff, you're still at least putting yourself in position to at least make something happen. Are you going to this year? No. Next year? Probably not. But you're still in that position. You're still getting a lot of money because of that. It's much more dangerous to fire him for the young hot shot or whoever that you have your eye on, because the risk of falling off a cliff is far, far more likely than you getting a Kirby Smart, like you had mentioned. So you got to keep him, but it is like we're going to be making these jokes until he finally does it on a consistent basis.
I was pretty shocked at Clemson's loss. They lose by double figures to Louisville. I realize you got a blocked field goal run back and some freakish things. You only gave up 156 yards passing, but what does that loss mean for Clemson?
It's an embarrassing loss, and I think it really calls into question the potential of the ACC getting two teams in. I still think there's an avenue in which Clemson beats Miami. They win the ACC championship. They get in, and then Miami gets in as a one-loss team. But you and I had this conversation last week. How many teams in the ACC are going to get there? We were under the impression that it was going to be a one-loss Clemson versus an unbeaten Miami. Now that it's not, like a two-loss Clemson that would potentially lose a third game in the ACC championship, they're not getting in. So that really kind of opens the door for teams in the SEC. But this was a bad loss for Clemson. You had been putting up all these points. You had had people saying that Cade Klubnik should be in the Heisman conversation. And then you play a team like Louisville that a couple weeks ago surrendered all of these points to Miami, and you can't do anything with it. It's a bad loss by Dabo. It's a bad loss by Clemson.
Especially at home. Clemson now 5-1 in league play. Speaking of that league, Pitt takes its first loss of the season. SMU looks really good in that game. Are they a threat to make the playoff?
I think they are. I think we are now kind of transitioning, or at least I am transitioning to the potential of seeing SMU and Miami in the ACC championship game. Not quite as sexy, I think, as Miami and Clemson, but the way that SMU handled Pitt this weekend was incredibly impressive. They have shown when they're in big slots, because remember, they were in a couple of big slots in the beginning of the season. When they're in big slots, they tend to step up. So I think they're a legitimate threat. It'd be really cool for a team like SMU, who didn't get a New Year's Six game last year, transitions to a Power 4 conference, and then wins that Power 4 conference in the first year potentially. That would be a hell of a story to write.
No question about it. Were you surprised that A&M got beat by 3 scores?
By 3 scores, yes. The fact that they lost, not really. I think we all kind of realized this is a trap game. This is not going to go well for Texas A&M. But the fact they got beat by 3 scores, South Carolina's a good team. They're not a beating the only unbeaten team in the SEC in November by 3 scores good. So that was incredibly surprising that they did not have the ability to carry over any of the momentum, it felt like, from that LSU win. I guess it is more of the same with Texas A&M. They're not there yet. And maybe it was unfair to think that they were going to be there yet in Mike Elko's first year when he didn't really have his selection at quarterback. But 3 losses, I mean, that's not a good look.
Let's talk about the playoff selection committee and what they'll reveal tonight. Is there anything that has your interest with the rankings tonight?
I'm curious to see what they're going to do with some of the one-loss teams and how they – like, is Ohio State going to, as a one-loss team, rank higher than Indiana, who's in the same conference but has not lost?
Yeah.
I would say yes, because Ohio State is a better, more talented team than Indiana, but it's going to be unique to see in a 12-team playoff how almost liberal they get and wishy-washy they get with some of those things that it felt like they were super strict on in years prior because you only had so many slots. So I'm intrigued to see how that's going to look, and then just to see how many Big Ten teams, how many SEC teams, and then what they really feel about teams like Notre Dame or maybe teams in the ACC. Do they feel good about SMU? Like, is SMU going to be in that top 12? Because a couple weeks ago on one of their mock ranking shows, they had 2 ACC teams in there with Clemson and Miami. So it'll be unique to see how they view things in this new model. And then that's kind of what we're going to use as our blueprint for what this first actual 12-team playoff is going to look like.
It's fascinating. I don't put really any stock at all into what they do tonight, but I am curious to see just kind of what it looks like on the screen, because we're used to just the top 4 mattering, and now you're looking at 1 through 15 or 18 really being relevant. So there's more to chew on, even if it's not of a ton of substance the first week in November. There'll be some substance in the SEC this week. Let's start in Oxford, Mississippi, where Georgia will travel to play Ole Miss. Dogs laying 2.5, although they haven't looked like world beaters the last couple of weeks. How do you see that one?
Yeah, that's a short line. Like, that's a much shorter line than I thought it was going to be. And I know they're on the road, but while they haven't looked like world beaters, we have seen Ole Miss, when they play good teams, they don't exactly look great themselves. So I think this is really a testament to how wrong certain people were about Carson Beck, not me. I don't think you were wrong about him either. This is kind of what I expected when he didn't have this amazing defense to bail him out. He is an average quarterback, it looks like. So I think that's really what that's pointing to. And Jackson Dart, well, I don't think he's amazing. He's better than average. That is the one thing that Ole Miss has that Georgia does not. I still see Georgia winning this one, but I was a little surprised this morning when I was looking at these lines and seeing that one as short as it is.
Yeah, Jackson Dart, 21 touchdowns, 3 interceptions on the year. Carson Beck, massive interception problems himself. All right, let's talk about the one here in Baton Rouge, 6:30, LSU and Alabama. Neither team in the top 10, but still a lot on the line because the loser gets their third loss and probably a ticket out of the playoffs. The winner right in the mix in the middle of November. Alabama's a 3-point favorite in Death Valley.
This is obviously the big one. I'm excited about this one. What is Jalen Milroe going to look like in a big game? You know, he had that 4th and 31 last year in the Iron Bowl, which is awesome. But what is he going to look like? Because he has been a guy that a lot of people had expectations for, and he has not lived up to that. I do think Alabama has a slight edge just because of some of the talent they have, but I think this one's going to be a good one. Baton Rouge and Death Valley is different when it comes to some of these places in college football. It's them and then everybody else in terms of hostile environments. So I am very curious to see how a guy like Jalen Milroe is going to be able to handle that. I like LSU in this one, if I'm being honest. That's not just because I'm on with you, Hunt, every week in Baton Rouge, but I do like LSU because I don't know that environment is going to be tough, I think, for a guy like Jalen Milroe to overcome.
And I'll be a happy guy doing the postgame show if that is the case. And when doing the postgame show, I'll be watching BYU and Utah, the late night game that now all of a sudden has a little bit of relevance potentially to LSU. I think the Big 12 is a one-bid league, and if it is, then we don't have to worry about this. But BYU is unbeaten. They are ranked. They're ranked number 9. They're 8-0, and they play Utah in the Holy War there in Utah. I realize it's a 4-4 Utah team, but do you give them any chance against their rivals? And what's a 3.5-point spread? 8-0 versus 4-4.
Yeah, I do give them a chance just because it's a rivalry game. I would think that there is still some sort of potential that the Big 12 gets 2 teams in, but I don't think the Big 12 and the ACC do. There's something about this Colorado team. Remember when we were all gagging about them last year because they got too much coverage? Well, now they actually kind of deserve it. So that's a team that I'm like, you ask about what I'm looking for tonight. I'm curious to see how the committee feels about them, knowing that there is a route for Colorado to get in there. I think BYU gets it done, but this is the one that I had circled and said, this is the one I'm nervous about in terms of them running the table and going unbeaten, because the rivalry game, the Holy War, it's a different feel to it. So I would love Utah to win, to be honest. I want the madness. Like, I really want the madness. So I'd love Utah to win, but I do think BYU, I mean, they got a lot of short spreads this year, and they have blown teams out of the water. So I think I would trust them over that.
We'll see. Denton Day College Football, Sirius XM College Football Overtime joins us every Monday. Made a little adjustment here, but we'll be back on schedule next week. And enjoy the selection show tonight, Denton. Thanks, man.
I will, and thank you for Marshon Lattimore. Appreciate it, guys.
You got it. Marshon Lattimore headed up to Washington to play some defense, unless his hamstring doesn't cooperate, which generally tends to be the case. I've got a small feeling that hamstring probably feels a little bit better today, headed to Washington, than it did getting ready to go to practice in New Orleans. But that's just a guess on my part. No way to know. 32 minutes left in the before the NFL trade deadline. We'll see if anything breaks with Chase Young or Carl Granderson over the next 30 minutes or so. When we come back, Sharif Ishak covering the Saints, WDSU down in New Orleans. He's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. If you don't like going to car dealerships to buy a car, that's okay. You don't have to do that at Genesis of Baton Rouge. I highly recommend you do that because it's an amazing facility and their brand ambassadors are great to work with. It's a fantastic experience. But if you don't have time or don't have the interest, then just give them a call. They can have one of their brand ambassadors drive to you and do that test drive at your work. They can do that test drive at home. They can do e-contracts. They've got digital delivery. And they don't need you to set foot in the car dealership to purchase a new Genesis. And if you do that, you get 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. You're not going to beat that. It's a luxury car brand. It's a luxury experience to drive a Genesis. They're sleek. They are stylish. They are safe. When I say safe, it's backed up by awards. The IIHA top safety picks. Some of the line were top safety picks plus, but everyone of the line at Genesis of Baton Rouge was given that IIHA top safety pick. Just give it a shot. If you've never given a thought to a Genesis, just give them a shot when you're in the market for a new automobile. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every car on the lot online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Genesisofbatonrouge.com.
The only thing scary about the deals at Bayou Ford is if you miss out on them, like $15,000 off F-150. Bayou Ford has $15,000 off Ford F-150. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Congratulations to Andy Antley from Youngsville. Andy is the Week 10 winner in our 2024 Pick'em contest and wins a Hooters wing party for 10 people. Don't forget to make your picks for round 11 by Thursday. This Thursday at noon, weekly winners will receive a Hooters wing party for 10 people, and the first place season-long champion will receive a 75-inch 4K flat-screen TV and soundbar, plus free Hooters wings for an entire year. It's a 2024 college football Pick'em presented by Hooters.
All right, Sharif Ishak, WDSU down in New Orleans, joins us every Tuesday, does so now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Sharif, how we doing?
I'm fine. I'm good.
I'm glad to hear that. All right, let's go chronologically here because there's a lot of news to get to since we last spoke. So let's start back on Sunday. The Saints go up to Carolina, play the worst organization in the league, and can't win the game. Let's start there, and then we'll get to everything that happened after it. But what did you see on the field? How jarring was that performance?
I saw some absolutely boneheaded play calls there from Clint Kubiak and Dennis Allen because he has to take some of the accountability, and obviously he did on Monday. You're just running the ball nonstop with Alvin and Taysom Hill, and you decide that let's be cute and start throwing the football all of a sudden. I really thought the players tried hard for the most part. They had a lot of good effort in the game. The 4th and 1, stupid. 4th and 4, even dumber. So that's what I think about anything when it comes to that game, I blame it all on play calling, not effort on the players. And obviously it showed on Monday morning.
Did you know when the result was a loss to Carolina that this was coming?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm surprised it didn't happen the night of,
Okay.
to be honest with you. But I think they just said, let's wait till the next day. And, I think the decision was made after the game that night. And then boom, it happened Monday morning. I was not shocked at all. Shocked that they did it, like, middle of the season, because I thought he was going to get fired once the season was over. But at the same time, not shocked. They had to do it because I think you started seeing Twitter with Cam Jordan apologizing, Colin Saunders saying the things that he was saying, even though I think he's just a funny Twitter follower. But then you also see Cam Jordan, that video of him walking off the field, turning off and not going into the locker room and having to have Alvin Kamara and Derek Carr go get him to come back. He's that visibly frustrated with how things have gone. Then you hear Alvin Kamara after the game saying we have confidence in our players, something else. I mean, you start hearing that. Gail Benson had to do something. I mean, and they did it. I mean, it was the right move, I think. And not I think, I know. But, Hunt, you know what I'm going to say. It's bigger than Dennis Allen.
Yeah, I want to spend one more on Dennis Allen, and then we'll get to where we go from here, and then the Marshon Lattimore news and what else may happen in the next 25 minutes. But you're hearing reports of, quote-unquote, lost the locker room. They've obviously lost 7 games in a row now. Is it just a 7-week thing? Does this go back to the Falcons game last year with the post-game deal? Is this all the way back to his time as a defensive coordinator? Like, what is ultimately this all rooted in?
Well, I think the straw that broke the camel's back was 100% this past game, but the beginning of the end all started with that Falcons game. James Hurst, he works with us now. He's our analyst. Fletcher posted the soundbite. You want to go listen to what he said, but he said, yeah, it was that Falcons game, how he never pretty much didn't have our back and apologized, and that really, upset a lot of the players. And it, and even the next day they were still upset about it. And then I think they held the grudge against, Dennis Allen apologizing to Arthur Smith after that game. And he said he was fine with them being reprimanded in the locker room, but publicly it just was a bad look for him to apologize to the Falcons. And that was the beginning of the end. And I think it was good for James Hurst to come out and say that publicly, because no one has said it up to this point. None of the players, no one has actually said it within an organization. That's where it all began.
Today, you see they move on from Marshon Lattimore. Does that signal that they're going to just go all the way to the studs with this thing, the best that they can?
The best as they can. I think that's the best asset they have that they could trade. I think they got pretty decent value, a third and a fourth.
Yeah.
For a Pro Bowler, who's mysteriously going to be healthy by the time the Commanders play again the next game. I'm sure he'll be just fine with his hamstring. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was you had to do what you have to do. I mean, I don't know how much they have left in terms of trading within the next 20, 25 minutes. But, I mean, I think he's the only asset that can get you something of value right now. Unless you really, had a healthy Chris Olave and you're like, all right, let's move off of Chris Olave. But then you're really, really tearing it down if you're getting rid of guys on rookie contracts.
Yeah, I mean, the two guys that have come up on Twitter have been Carl Granderson and then Chase Young, who's on a 1-year deal. If you were Mickey Loomis, would you attempt to get rid of those guys as well?
I would think his post yesterday probably didn't make a lot of people happy in the front office whenever he posted that picture saying how I'm walking into work today, and you had a smiley face after Dennis got fired. I'm sure some people might not like it within even the locker room and even in the front office, but he's too much of they just gave him a new contract, and he's almost like a valuable part of their defensive line. Then you're really, really just destroying your team for at least a year or two, which I think I'm fine. I'm fine if you want to get rid of somebody who's an asset and get draft picks for it. But I think it would take something nice in order to get some to trade off of Carl Granderson at this point. I just don't know if any teams are going to be willing to offer that second round pick maybe and a fifth or a fourth. I just don't see it. Chase Young, maybe they don't have any takers. I just don't see him going anywhere. I just think that they're not getting what they want for Chase Young and just going to finish out the year with Chase on this bad team.
And look, if Chase Young finishes out and has a productive last few games, which he's playing for a contract. So it's not like, oh, well, the Saints aren't going to win anything. Why would he try? Well, he's playing for his next deal to whoever's going to pay him that. And so if he is productive, you could potentially get a compensatory pick if he moves on, and that could be a third rounder. So it wouldn't be a shocker if Chase Young didn't go if they don't get something in the neighborhood of a third or fourth round pick. So I think it's interesting, but to me it feels like there's a complete shift in direction of the franchise. What can they accomplish over the last, 7-8 weeks of the season?
I'm sure the fans don't want them to win. That's the one thing they don't want to do. They don't want to, miss out on a higher draft pick. But to be honest with you, Hunt, I mean, I guess they want to play for Darren Rizzi. They love Darren Rizzi. I think they are going to try to, win games, as many games as possible. But you have to remember, this team is still beat up. This team is still injured. I mean, they got injuries all over the place right now. I mean, they don't have any receivers, and they don't have, now they lost a cornerback. I don't even know if Kool-Aid McKinstry going to be healthy enough to play this weekend. It's like, outside of Alontae Taylor, who else is playing? I mean, Shamar Jean-Charles, and, you get back maybe someone else to play. I mean, Rico Payton. I mean, they're just running out of players at this point. I mean, I understand they want to play for Rizzi because Rizzi has that passion, has that energy, and he's a good leader. He really is. I mean, he's got that bravado. But what do they do? 4-4, 3-5, finish 6 wins, 5-6 wins, and pick in the top 10. I mean, they're playing pretty much for themselves at this point. I mean, you know how the fans feel. The fans just have had enough.
For sure. So do you have a name or two in mind for a new head coach? Do you have a personality, a specialty on one side of the ball? Like, what do you think is next for the next head coach of the Saints?
I mean, the odds are out there. And you see Ben Johnson is on the top of that board. Aaron Glenn. Obviously, Aaron Glenn was a secondary coach here with Sean Payton, now in Detroit with Dan Campbell. I mean, Dan Campbell has Ben Johnson as his offensive coordinator. He passed on the Panthers job last year. Smart move, because not only the worst, organization in football, it might be the worst organization of all of sports. You don't want to be there with Tepper. I mean, I think that was a smart move not to go work for Tepper. I think that's a disaster over there. And maybe Dan Campbell's like, hey, Ben, Gale's a good owner. Go there. They have good stability. You might have to work through it like I did in Detroit. Everyone said I should not take this job in Detroit because Detroit's a disaster of a franchise. And look, here they are, Super Bowl favorites in the NFC, like back-to-back years. So it's going to be a little bit of rebuilding. It's going to be a few years. And maybe Dan does convince Ben to take the job here in New Orleans because of the stability they have at ownership. So maybe that he is at the top of my board. I think they need to go offensive-minded. The league is pretty much an offensive league. I'll give you another name outside of those top 2 names. Maybe Cliff Kingsbury, maybe Slowick, offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. Liam Cohen, offensive coordinator for the Bucs. I mean, the sleeper would be bringing Mike McCarthy back to New Orleans. He was here from 2000 to 2004. It feels like he's going to get fired once the season is going to be over, unless Jerry Jones gives him another season because of injuries. But, I mean, those are some of the names. If you want to go defense, I mean, Mike Vrabel again.
Yeah.
And if you want to go defensive minded, I mean, look, here's another name, Todd Monken, or offensive coordinator for the Ravens. I'm just thinking offense. I've seen it enough. I've seen the defensive coaches. Unless you're bringing like these amazing stats and you're getting a high draft pick like Dan Quinn got in Jaden Daniels and was able to get Cliff Kingsbury to make it work. Yeah, but it's how rare is that going to happen for you? It's not a good It's not a good class of quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's a tough spot the Saints are in. We'll see how they start to navigate it. But Marshon Lattimore will not be a part of it. He is now headed to Washington. Sharif, briefly, the Pelicans, most banged-up team in the NBA. Guess that's not really super great news. What do you make of their first 3 weeks?
Are they practicing on Airline Drive?
Yes.
Like everybody thinks? Okay, yeah, they are the most banged-up team in the entire NBA. I mean, you have Zion out, Trey out, CJ out, DeJounte out, Herb out. I mean, am I missing somebody? Brandon Ingram's the only person who's actually playing. I mean, Everybody, your starting lineup is hurt. It's unreal how much production's on the bench. Give them credit for having guys like Brandon Boston, Jose Alvarado. Brandon Ingram has been amazing, but they just keep running out of juice at the end of games because they have no one to play. I mean, they all 5 of their losses about 15 or more points this year. I mean, it's just bad, and they all come against. Well, you see 2 of them against Portland. I mean, God, some of these losses have been against some bad teams. like the Hawks and Portland twice. I mean, the Warriors are good. I mean, they're 6-1, but man, just looking at these injuries, I'm a little worried about this Zion thing, not being at the game yesterday. Hearing Willie Green say that, they kept him at home and the doctors wanted him to stay at home. It's not contagious. This isn't a virus.
Yeah.
The hamstring quad. I mean, something has to be up. And I can't believe we're Groundhog Day once again saying something has to be up. Something's wrong. I mean, I don't know, man. It's a long season.
Yeah, it's
not a great start, man.
It's not.
I mean, don't be surprised, man. They got rid of Dennis Allen. Things continue to go south later in the season. Just saying. Especially when they're healthy.
I guess we'll cross that bridge if we get to it. Sharif, appreciate the time, man. We'll talk next week.
Listen, man, I'm sorry about all the negativity of the last 7 weeks, but
I don't know what else we're supposed to say.
Well, I'm not sure if the team captains and leaders are being negative, your news and reporters are all going to be negative. There's nothing positive to say. Sorry.
Nope, not really. We'll do it again next week. Thanks, man.
All right, man. Go Tigers.
That's it. Sharif Ishak, WDSU down there in New Orleans. There's not a lot of positivity. The Saints are starting a rebuild from the bottom, and the Pelicans don't have any players. So it's just a tough scene down there with 5-0-4. Come back, play some Take It or Leave It, and that'll be it for us on a Tuesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. They can help you with property and casualty insurance for your business owner. They can also help you with group and employee benefits. They can be your one-stop insurance shop. Jonathan Carbo is a great dude and an awesome insurance broker. I've had a chance to talk insurance with him multiple times here, and I spoke this language for 7 years. And there are some people that get it, and some people that just don't. And Jonathan and his team do, and they understand that not everyone does. So you should trust your insurance broker and be able to trust your insurance broker to get you in the right position when that incident happens, whether it's a hurricane, car accident, cyber breach, lawsuit, whatever the case may be. You need to be protected, and Jonathan Carbo and his team can help you with that. Employment practices liability, directors and officers insurance, crime, cyber, umbrella, whatever the case may be, they can help you with all of it at the Highland Insurance Group. Check them out online, HighlandIG.com. I say this all the time. If you're just looking to call an insurance broker, hey, can you save me 20% on this? In this marketplace in the insurance world right now, that's just not a realistic possibility, but it is realistic to make sure that you're properly covered at the right price. And they can help you with that at the Highland Insurance Group. HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2024 Ram 1500 truck for only $32,898. $32,898 for a new Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge is your new home for the New Orleans Pelicans. Tomorrow night, the Pelicans host the Cleveland Cavaliers. Hopefully, they'll have a few players back from injury, but that tip-off is set for 7 p.m. right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Tuesday show is brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar. 2 locations in Baton Rouge. Nicholson just south of campus. Bluebonnet in front of the Mall of Louisiana. We'll be there tonight for sports trivia, 8:30, drinking cold beer, eating some delicious wings, watching some football, watching some basketball as well. Grab a teammate or group of friends, or just come out by yourself, win some gift cards. Enjoy Tuesday night. We always enjoy our time at Pluckers. They bring you our Tuesday shows each and every week. Pluckers, if you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird. All right, Mac, take it or leave it.
Oh, all right.
About to say, did we get a new Take It or Leave It song?
No, we did not. I just pressed the wrong button there. All right. First one here, asked if a Thursday night game feels like cramming for a test. Former LSU wide receiver, current Bengal Jamar Chase said, quote, "I didn't study in school." Go Tigers. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. Look, I think the purpose of going to school is to make sure you set yourself up for a career.
Yep.
And Jamar set himself up for a great career. He got a great job right out of school.
He did.
And he's gonna get a raise here very shortly.
Most likely,
so,
yes.
I think that's all well and good. I think he did a great job academically at LSU by winning the Blitnikoff Award.
Yep.
That was really all he was here to do.
Yep.
Shout out Cardell Jones. I'm not here to play school.
That is very true. Next one here, late night election coverage. Take it or leave it.
I mean, that kind of depends on how you're asking. I will take it. I will be watching.
I'll take it.
I have said this a lot of times on the airwaves. I am shocked at the way our politics are covered. It really blows my mind. I am not incredibly informed on all things foreign policy and how different taxes affect this and that, and like I don't have a great political acumen. I'm reasonably informed as compared to the entirety of the electorate, but what I do a significant amount of time is watch Fox News for 25-30 minutes and watch MSNBC right after that for 20 to 25 minutes, and I'm just blown away at the way that these networks cover politics. It's, essentially, it's like if I just got on here for an hour straight every day and just told you how atrocious Alabama was at everything that they do. That's what they do. My wife doesn't ever watch politics. For like 20 minutes last night for each network we watched, and she was like, I can't believe this. Like, they only talk bad about the Democrats and they only talk bad about the Republicans. Like, yeah, this is all they do the entire time. And that's, I'm sure, what they're going to do again tonight. And it's like, you can turn on Fox and you can do Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity, and you can hear Jesse Waters. You can go to MSNBC and hear Matt Al and Joy Reid and Lawrence, like all those guys. They just, I can't believe no one ever gives a dissenting opinion on the entire set. It blows my mind. It's like a journalism guy who went to school for it. I'm amazed, but I guess that's what people want to hear, so it's what they do. I'll watch both of them, and I'll probably just be more like blown away by the actual coverage and the result of whatever happens tonight all across the country, and then of course here. Here's my my advice to you, the listener. Tune in to Brian Haldane on Talk 107.3 from 8 to 10 tonight once the poll's closed. He'll have actual, realistic coverage. Although I am impressed with Kornacki working the screen. He knows all the counties and and he can work all the buttons, and like he's really good at that. just the actual commentators, I think, on both networks. I can't take anything they say seriously because they only talk on one angle. I can't. How am I supposed to? You have no credibility if you only talk one way.
Yep, that's very true. All right, last one real quick. Tre'Davious White is headed to Baltimore from L.A. The Rams are fire sale is on. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
Just weird career for Chad.
Yeah.
He's made some money. He had some really good moments early. A lot of injuries. A lot of different teams now. But he's
Seems
hung
like
around.
He's still serviceable.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can hang around, that's the deal. Like I hear Hester talk about it all the time. It's like, it gets taken away really quick, and it hasn't gotten taken away from Tre'Davious. So he's going to a great organization. I will be candid; I'm not really pulling for them.
Yeah,
they're in my diehard Bengals fan division.
Of course.
But pulling for Shaq, Shreveport guy, and a great Tiger. So good for him. Hang around, get some cash. Just don't beat the Bengals. That's it for a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show here. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound. Glenn West talking football in the first hour. Mark Ethridge talking some LSU baseball. We watched 21 innings back in Biloxi on Sunday. Had some basketball in hour number 1 as well. Denton Day talking National College Football Perspective at 2:15, and Sharif on the disasters in New Orleans. Matt's about to drive you home with all the latest news from the Saints on AFR. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place. Hope to see you tonight at Pluckers. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. We're looking at the tropical storm in November at this point. So you really have a lot of months out of the year where you've got to concern yourself with storms in this part of the world. And the best way to prepare yourself is to get that home standby generator. Generac from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Every single Generac generator from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical comes with a 7 to 10 year warranty. So 1, you got the peace of mind of knowing that your power is not going to go out because you have the generator. 2, you've got even more peace of mind because you know you've got a warranty on that piece of equipment for 7 to 10 years depending on the generator that you select. You're never going to hear me talk about VIP memberships or additional charges you got to pay to Boudreaux's to get quality customer service. That's just part of the deal with the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical. Give them a call at 985-397-1562 or 225-300-9389. You can check them out online at boudreauxelectrical.com. It's my friends at Boudreaux's Electrical, boudreauxelectrical.com.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more.